One is with chord voicings. There's a couple things that I think are really powerful to do with the guitar with just a couple notes. And a lot of what I do when I play on the guitar, it's actually less notes in a voicing than a lot of people think. And most of that is because normally when I'm playing, there's also a lot of other people that are playing with. Normally there's a keyboard where there's 10 fingers available to play things, most of the time not utilizing all 10 of them. And there's a bass player who's filling out the low end. And sometimes when I'm playing, I don't need to play a big G7 voicing. That can oftentimes be a little bit too much. So sometimes I'll break it up and just, really what's kind of fun to me is playing little segments of the chord. So I go. On its own, it might sound kind of, but if you put the bass with it, 2, 3, 4. So now all of a sudden it has a little bit more harmonic context. You can feel the anchor due to the bass. And I can do the same thing up here where this kind of feels weird on its own. Or brand new strings. So I can do this. Really, I'm just kind of going to Mixolydian sort of thing. But if I play it, it kind of has a different quality to it. It feels like a chord. It feels like there's maybe a little bit more going on. And I can kind of play rhythmic with it. And actually, instead of just playing, like some people think, oh, I'm just going to jam on a G7 and we'll go. Gets monotonous, it maybe gets a little bit too much. So if you can make a little line or a pattern out of it with the context of the bass, 2, 3, 4. So all of a sudden I played a phrase or it's musical, it's something that I can kind of hum along to or sing. There's something that feels somewhat memorable about it rather than just going. Which I think there's sometimes a time and place for that. I'm playing it a little bit aggressive there to get my point across. But one of the things that's really nice to do on guitar is try to utilize less notes in your voicing and see how little you can get away with. See what sometimes you can get away with one note. Downbeats as really heavy anchors to give the feeling of arriving somewhere and then playing the line, and it kind of creates a musical phrase and it makes it a little something different. And then the other thing that I like to utilize on the guitar is the interval of tenths. This is actually a really cool interval that carries a lot of weight on the guitar and also on the bass. And it's basically just like having thirds, just your G and your B in the case of G. But you move the B up an octave. And for whatever reason, with the interval of a tenth, especially on the guitar, the way that the harmonics, the overtones work together, in some ways that it almost feels like there's extra stuff implied in that. There's a lot of famous songs that use the tenth. That's all based off of tenths. I have a song called Meditation where I use tenths as the really it's just two notes, but there's something about the way that the overtones work on the guitar where kind of allows the imagination of the ear to fill in other information. And oftentimes with making music and making art, sometimes it's best to give the listener only what they really need and allow them to fill in the blanks. Sometimes that's something you can do in the way you work on an arrangement of a song, the notes, the chord voicings that you're playing, sometimes the groove that you're playing. You can hint at certain subdivisions and let the listener's ear fill in the rest of them on their own. And sometimes what ends up happening is when you allow the listener to be part of the story, they connect with the music in a deeper way. If you allow the listener to put more of their own sense of imagination and creativity of their own mind into the thing that you're making, it actually allows for a much deeper experience for that listener. And I think also for myself as a performer, if I leave space in things that I'm doing, it allows me to hear things in a different way if I'm open to it. Of course, when I write music, I hear it the way that I do, and my mind is filling in the blanks the way that I heard it from the beginning, but oftentimes we're on tour and I'll play something and I'll open myself up to what else can I hear through this music? What else can I think about through this music? Where can I go in a different place? And a lot of times if I open up my ears to it, I'll find a new space to explore. And that is a wonderful thing about art, and that is a wonderful thing about music that allows for the imagination of the listener. Of course, not all of my music has that. A lot of it is, there's a lot of information happening, and it's what's supposed to happen. But there are certain times where it can be really powerful to allow the listener to kind of finish the song themselves in their own head. So for those of you that are writers, I encourage you to try that and see what happens. You might find something new, special. Yeah. Should we play one more tune?
Sure. Yeah.